This AskReddit user asks, teachers of Reddit, when did you realize a kid was gifted? I was teaching distance over time graphs. The student stated that if the line just went straight up that it would indicate teleportation because distance has been gained but no time has passed. This was 5th grade science. Edit. This kid ended up skipping 6th and 7th grade. 5th to 8th. He was a super humble kid. I miss having him in my class. Dream Theater fans unite. Holy FK, I get this reference. Nice. If the line goes straight up, it indicates you are a photon. Or that you are existing in all of the places at the same time. And there are a lot of places. 2 dots vertically would be teleportation. Jesus, what a noob 5th grader. Foreign exchange student from China in the 8th grade. His writing abilities far exceeded the majority of even the accelerated class. I moved him from regular English to accelerated, and not only was his writing strong, his insights were so deep and thoughtful. At the end of the year, I learned not only was he a top student in my class, he won Student of the Year in Spanish as well. Some people are just annoyingly good at writing. It's almost infuriating. I would sit over an essay for hours and struggle to have it make sense. And my boyfriend would look at it for a couple minutes and come up with way better insights and phrasing. In German, our native language, and in English, he writes poems when bored. I got a collection of love poems by him. HL. The man wrote me a short play for Christmas one year. Edit. The man is really intelligent. Studying maths ATM. He's not particularly great at real-life adulting and doing practical tasks though. Not a teacher. But when I was in a top-tier U.S. West Coast college, taking a third-year biochemistry class, meaning there were a few semesters of prereqs, we had a classmate who came with her dad. She was so young that her feet couldn't touch the floor when she was seated in the chairs of the lecture room. That BD probably messed up the grading curve. I am a kindergarten teacher who is responsible for teaching students who are considered advanced for their age. A lot of my students are advanced, but few are gifted. This year I had the absolute joy of working with a truly gifted student. This young man sees the world through numbers. He is fluent in advanced math topics. But the most amazing thing is how he taught himself to read. He assigned each letter, digraph, diphthong, and blend a numerical value. He then correlates the numbers to sounds. When asked why he reads this way, he said, "It's easier to read through numbers." I was blown away. I guess I saw it right from the start. She started walking ridiculously early, like 6 or 7 months. Started talking not long after that. Declared around a year and a bit, "I don't like diapers. I'm not going to use them anymore," and was toilet trained after that. Started talking to dead people not long after that. One of these is not like the others. I agree. Who the FK can walk after 6 months? My sister was climbing open display units at 7 months. I'd often get the blame for her climbing out of her cot at the same age as we shared a room. I'm nearly 8 years older than her. She was walking just as she turned 9 months and was walking into town nearly a 2-mile round trip, refusing her pushchair by a year old. I am not a teacher but a past fellow 15-yo student of mine. In metalwork craft shop. For a project he produced a thing made of 2 car hubcaps. Looked like a UFO. Nothing was visible but he'd rigged whatever was inside so the 2 hubcaps spun in opposite directions while staying together. It looked like a spinning top, with a small shaft top and bottom. When it came to the presentation, he set it on a table and spun it using a drill. When the drill was removed, it spun and spun, and we all waited and waited. When it was still spinning some 40 minutes later, with only the slightest of a wobble, we had also moved on to the next presentation. The teacher asked what his project was demonstrating. He replied, pretty quietly, that he was working on a perpetual motion machine, but had not quite got it yet. Quote exclamation mark. The teacher called a meeting shortly after and he was gone from the school within a year. Allegedly signed up by some huge corporation who paid his full college years on a great salary on the condition he worked for them. Still going strong in research etc. From what I hear. Kid should look into the first law of thermodynamics. Not really a kid, per se. But when I was teaching in uni, one of my first-year students wrote a paper that was too good to be true. Now, I'd had several plagiarists over the years. So I did my diligence and asked him if he could come to my office hour to discuss his paper. This is a good test. Because a plagiarist will not likely be able to actually discuss what they wrote in any detail. Well, this kid proceeded to just blow it out of the FG water. Not only did he write the paper, but he was also able to describe all of the theory behind it in great detail. Kid got an A+ in the class. Needless to say, he could easily have jumped straight into a PhD. Legit superstar. Had a 4-year-old kid who insisted that I read a children's solar system book to him over and over again. After the 7th or 8th time, he was mouthing the words along with me. He couldn't read, he had memorized the entire thing. This kid was always bright but never really inspired by much of what he did. Seemed a little lazy but wasn't troublesome, he was just kind of a neutral kid in the class. We did one day of Lewis structures and he thought it was too easy. Gave him a harder worksheet which he finished in like 3 seconds. So I gave him an organic formula that had 12 different isomers and some resonance structures. He came up with all of them in less than 15 minutes, including ones that had to do with how the object would look in 3D even though we never covered it. Kid is currently working on his PhD at Yale in organic chemistry. Was this in high school? That's impressive for an undergraduate. I am an organic professor and resonance really screws most of my students for some reason. It was in high school. I have my master's in organics, so I like to sprinkle it into my high school class more than others. I was shocked when this kid was asking questions about chirality to me. Not using the term but expressing the idea. And had to break out my Orgo book to find problems for him while the other students were still grasping, if we share 2 electrons we get a covalent bond. The kid just got it and could see how the structures went together and how pieces would fit. I had him doing mechanisms pretty quickly just to keep him interested. He essentially took a different class than the rest of his peers from that point until the end of the year. Yeah, that's really impressive. Also, MMS in organic is very uncommon. Are you in the States? I gave a choice board assignment to my class. One of the choices was to write a song or monologue with a strong purpose. I said they could use a song that already exists and write new lyrics. Just so they wouldn't get overwhelmed. One of my 13-yo students, who has apparently never written a song before, wrote, recorded, and mixed a 5-minute-long original song. With harmonies. All in 5 days. The lyrics are beautifully written and vivid and introspective. And the song is musically well structured. At 13, I thought I was a genius for rhyming life and strife once. This student wrote an Anais Mitchell song on their first try. 11-year-old girl. Year 7. In my maths class. She started asking questions that would have stumped the brightest in my top set year 11. It was a delight to have her in my class and I'm so jealous of the teacher who gets to teach her this year. What kind of questions was she asking? Fellas, is it gay to breathe? Quote, yeah. Took a summer job helping at a daycare. One of the toddlers, about 18 months old, was way ahead of the rest. Could talk full sentences. Knew his ABCs. Could count beyond 20. Already had shapes and colors down. I've seen kindergarten-aged kids that haven't mastered some of these things. He's in his early 20s now with a master's in engineering and a 6-figure salary. It might not be the standard. However, I was speaking in complete sentences and whatnot around the same age. And I'm a stoner that does landscaping. I was always years ahead of my peers in school until one day I just wasn't. My literally never do homework unless I'm actually going to fail policy might be responsible for that. Though. Edit. Every Redditor and their mother relates to this. Why am I not surprised? Hello. My fellow burnouts. This is extraordinarily common. Students who are never truly challenged don't learn the study and work habits required for success. Our public school system regularly fails our smartest individuals. This is known psychology. That is why gifted is under the special education category. However, it's up to the states and local school systems to determine what services they provide for gifted students. The number one thing I tell parents of gifted children is you have to let them fail at things early on. Otherwise they run the risk of anxiety and fear of failure when things do get hard. I teach at levels. A very basic look at it is 1. Knowledge. Memorizing info. 2. Comprehension. Interpret info. 3. Application. Apply info. 4. Analysis. Break down info. 5. Synthesize. Recreate info. 6. Evaluate. Teach info. Gifted kids, in my style of teaching, are the ones that blow through the first 2 basic levels of learning and can progress on to 3 to 6 much faster, which are a higher level of learning. Science teacher here. I had a new student join my environmental science class on the day of a pretty difficult test. I told him that he could try the test, and if he scored poorly, then I would simply not count it in his grade. I really just wanted to get a feel for what he learned at his previous school. Well, he finished the test in about 5 minutes. He got a perfect score and provided the best answer to the extra credit question at the end. I walked to the principal's office after the class period and asked for him to be removed from my class and placed in advanced chemistry. I think he ended up with a 97% in the chemistry class by the end of the year. An interesting test for toddlers is to see if they can hold an extended back and forth conversation with adults. Most kids at this age, and most grown-ass adults, are just asking for something or telling you something. I was at the park one day swinging my ex's 5-year-old daughter. There was what seemed to be a 5-year-old, or less, child swinging next to mine. I swear, we ended up having a full-blown conversation. The child's enunciation was on point. It was as if I was in a Geico commercial. I asked the mom how the child could possibly speak that well, as it seemed inhuman. She said the dad is a children's speech pathologist. Coach's kid. Every time. I think you mean enunciation, but I could be wrong. I used to put a math joke puzzle in the corner of the whiteboard. Essentially 3 golden triangle numbers arranged in a triangle, and a puzzle which gave the letter I as a result in the middle. In short, it was an Illuminati joke. I had this up for quite a few classes, with nobody being able to guess what on earth it was. Until the last class of the day. A student who suffered from particularly invasive autism just came in. Took maybe 3 seconds at most. And then laughed saying, "Why have you drawn the Illuminati symbol on the board?" Quote, "It wasn't so much that it was impossible. I was just blown away by how quickly he managed to do it." I'm curious what the puzzle was that gave the letter I? SQRT -1? I'm not a school teacher, but I used to be a hockey instructor way back. During the summers, I was a hockey camp leader. Each week of the 8 weeks of summer, I would teach 20 to 30 kids how to play hockey. We were on the ice for 2 hours in the morning and 2 in the afternoon. But we had the kids from like 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., so there was a lot of time to fill. There was only one kid I remember. His name was Charles. He would be registered for 5 to 6 of the 8 weeks of camps we ran. Very quiet. Sweetest kid you'll ever meet. Was 9 to 10 years old. He was pretty shy and for whatever reason had really taken to me. so I was his go-to buddy or whatever. One day when we were trying to kill time, we went to a rec room where there were a bunch of board games and CP. Charles asked if him and First could play a game and I said sure. Most of the games were already taken, and one of the only ones left was chess. So I asked him if he knew how to play, and he didn't. So I said I would teach him. I showed him the basics, what each piece does, the point of the game, etc. I had been playing chess for years, so was pretty decent. We did a practice game where I didn't really try, and he understood the game shockingly quickly, to the point I could see him laying traps and that for me in the practice game. So we decided to play for real, and I tried my best. I got absolutely whooped. He started explaining how he planned certain strategies like 5 moves in advance, thinking on a completely different level. We played 4 times and he dusted me every time. His mind was incredible. I always remembered his name and looked him up on LinkedIn a while back. He's in med school and won a bunch of awards. Pretty sure he skipped a few years. He's accomplished pretty much everything I wanted to accomplish, but in 8 fewer years. The kid is absolutely incredible. He was AST hockey player though. Kid took like 15 camps over 3 years and I think he somehow got worse. Absolutely hopeless on skates. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel for more videos.